War has been part of human civilization since the dawn of time. Pride is a source of war, but humility, with some luck, can obtain peace. Wisdom seeks and paves the path to peace. The reason why wisdom favors peace is that peace brings to prosperity. The Bible, which can be considered to be a source of wisdom, even if you are not a faithful of Christ or Jehovah, has some teachings with regards to peace. Jesus states that blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And the Old Testament, Proverbs 16:7, states that when the Lord is pleased with the man's ways, he makes even his enemies be at peace with him. There are around 63 conflicts on planet Earth at this very moment, conflicts which are shedding blood, which is a sign that God is evidently not that much pleased with man. Some of these conflicts have been spanning over decades. The 5 main conflicts which cause deaths and have perdured up to this very day over quite some time, with the exception of the Ukrainian conflict, which is relatively new, are the conflict inside Myanmar, which involves the minorities of the country, the Afghan conflict, the Yemeni civil war, the Tigray war, which touches the Ethiopian area. All these conflicts have brought to thousands of deaths. The other conflicts are lesser conflicts which have still killed a lot, but which have not brought to the vast degree of destruction which the 5 main conflicts which I have cited have generated. The Ukrainian crisis is, as we all know, not really that young. It was born in 2014 with the Crimean invasion on the part of Russia and the conflicts in Luhansk and Donetsk, the Donbas region. The problem with the Ukraine-Russia war is that, of course, Russia has nuclear weapons, and the conflict might spill over to other areas of the world involving also NATO. This would bring us to the Third World War. This would bring us to a situation where the health of the planet, the well-being of the planet itself, is put at risk. Now, this was taken seriously by the public when Russia invaded Ukraine the second time, when Russia renewed its invasion of Ukraine earlier in 2022. But recently, the pressure has in part diminished. The attention over the Ukraine crisis has diminished. We really don't realize just how serious the crisis is and how much we are in danger because of it. For that reason, it is time that there where we have distracted ourselves on other issues, that we return the attention on the Ukraine crisis and try to do something to solve this and other crises that are on the planet. Now, as a single individual, you might think that you can't do much. But here I am trying to suggest an old solution, a solution that was used above all in the 1800s, and that are part of the British culture, the so-called civil letter writing, civil and polite letter writing. The idea is first to research the conflicts of the world, find their causes, study them, and find reasons which might bring political individuals, political actors to move and put pressure so to end these conflicts. It's easier to do this if you believe that God exists. If you believe that God exists, you believe that every single action that you do is scrutinized by a greater being. Thus, you will take initiative to do the right thing, even if the right thing has little or no impact. 2 reasons to enact that behavior is, first of all, decency. It is decent to rebel to war in a decent way, which is civility. And civility is writing letters. I mean real letters, not emails, letters written on paper. The second reason is that you satisfy the biblical teaching of bringer of peace, thus satisfying and pleasing God, even if you don't achieve much. The other suggestions that I have require believing in God. Now, the idea is that war is a curse of God on man that misbehaves. So the idea is there where we behave in the right way, war shall be brought to an end, for there is less of a reason to punish man. The biggest fault that I see, that I understand with my mind, is the way man is treating the planet. We are totally disregarding the small creatures. We're disregarding the birds, the ants, we're disregarding the trees. So caring for the environment is one step in the right direction. I would suggest to feed the small creatures, to share the food, the well-beings of man with other creatures, to feed the birds, to feed the ants, to show that you genuinely care. And the first way to show that you genuinely care is to support other beings. This is also the right thing to do. So by doing the right thing, we also obtain the advantages of malls, the strength of malls there where war actually strikes. And by feeding the creatures, we also bring peace to the creatures. And in a certain sense, bringing peace to the creatures, we can ask peace for ourselves. Now, taking care of the small creatures is the thing which is not obvious, the thing that nobody really does and that we really should do. Whilst instead, the next suggestion that I present is something that many people actually do enact, which is taking care of other people, taking care of refugees. Refugees is one of the problems which are tied to the current war in Ukraine. Let us consider Psalms 9:9. The Lord is stronghold in times of trouble. The Lord is stronghold for the oppressed. And then we have Matthew 23:35. For I was hungry, and you gave me meat. For I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. This shows that God seeks to protect the oppressed, and there where we cater to the oppressed, we satisfy a teaching of God to cater to others, and we please God Himself. Pleasing God, we seek not to be struck by God's curses, and as I said, one of God's biggest curses is war and conflict. Once we have sought to act, there is little more that we can do but pray, and that is the fourth thing I suggest, prayer. Now, the important thing is to give substance to the prayer, and the way we can give substance to the prayer is through a small sacrifice or through a commitment to do good. The reason why I speak about sacrifice is that sacrifice gives meaning to the prayer, renouncing to something in order to make the prayer more substantial and of more relevance. Sacrifice secures that the prayer are not simply empty words. The second element which gives weight to a prayer is the promise to do good, a small promise which is tied to the prayer that we make. Thus, before making the prayer, we say, well, I'll go and help the neighbor with this and this issue, so to strengthen the prayer that I'm doing. A commitment to do good tied to a prayer secures that the prayer is not forgotten, for there is an event which is tied to the formulation that we make. One of the biggest accusations of Christ towards the religious people of his period was that they respected the forms, they respected the norms and the rules of religion, but they forgot to enact the essence. The essence had been lost. By doing a small sacrifice that is good, by making a commitment to do something good and tying it to a prayer, we give substance and essence to the request that we make to heaven. Thus, if we make a noble prayer and then we do a noble deed, the prayer starts to have a form that God can consider in better light. Well, these are just some ideas. If you have any other ideas, please insert them in the comments. The overall concept is to be good so that we are not subject to the wrath and the punishment of greater beings which wreak their havoc on earth. If we limit ourselves to what we can practically do with our hands to bring peace, we realize that it's not much. So the only hope that we can do is that our small action is transformed into something greater which brings peace. That is why the faithful individual, the individual that believes in God, there where God does exist, actually is more helpful than the atheist that does little or nothing. The believer will do something, which is why believers are so important in our world. Sometimes a small game can have enormous results. Let us remember Greta Thunberg's games, where she simply sat in front of the parliament protesting for the environment. How such a small thing then snowballed and became a world movement in favor of the climate, in favor of the environment. So small actions sometimes can lead to great results. This is why we have to do these small actions, for if we don't do these small actions, we will not obtain the great results. I hope this video was useful for you, and I cannot but ask that you go to the channel and look at the other videos that are there to see if there's anything else that is interest. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for something that we hope is both useful and interesting for you and for me and for all of us. Bye bye!